Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. I'm your host, John Bush, where, as always, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, we are rocking and rolling, moving and grooving with the purpose of helping you to become empowered, step out of victim mode, take responsibility for your life, and join us in creating a more free world. That's what it's all about. And today we have an incredible guest. In fact, I'm rocking his gear right now. Everything I want to do is illegal. And of course, the lunatic farmer hat. So they got some great gear there at the Polyface Farm store and some great food too. And we're going to be joined by Joel Salatin here in just one moment. And of course, this weekend, July 12th and 13th, we're actually airing the encore of the Exit and Build Land Summit 5. The Exit and Build Land Summit 5. The Exit and Build Land Summit is an event that my lovely wife and I, Rebecca, who's tuned in there, yay, Facebook. Shout out to everybody tuning in, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Hey, good morning, Catherine Martin. She's on every single show right at the beginning. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be interviewing Joel here for the next hour or so, but I did want to share with you guys coming up this weekend, July 12th and 13th, you'll have the opportunity to stream the replay of Land Summit 5, which took place at Polyface Farms. This is the 5th event that we've done. Usually it's here in Central Texas at a conference center, and we do these off-site farm tours and workshops the day before, the day after the conference event. But people are always just so enamored by going out and getting their hands dirty and seeing real life regenerative farms, communities in person. So this year we thought, hey, where better than Polyface Farm with Joel Salatin, who's been the keynote at a few of our Land Summit events. What if we could go check it out and just get ingrained in everything that he's doing, have a tour of the farm, learn from him and his son, Daniel, and eat the incredible food that they grow there. And that's exactly what we did, friends. And coming up here in just a couple days, you'll be able to live stream the replay. You'll also get access to the lifetime replays and an incredible 4-hour masterclass that we did the day after the event if you get the VIP pass. Okay, guys, so 2 options to join. The website is exitandbuildlandsummit.com, exitandbuildlandsummit.com. We hope you'll join us. It's going to be an incredible event. It'll be live streamed on Zoom, so you'll get to mix it up with the folks. I'll be hanging out there in the Zoom chat as well. And again, if you get the VIP pass, you get this 4-hour mastermind. We'll talk about that here shortly with Joel, and you get lifetime access to the replays as well. Okay, well, enough of that. Let's go ahead and bring on the man of the hour, the one, the only, Mr. Joel Salatin. How are you today?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me on. It's a real privilege.
Awesome. Well, we've worked together quite a bit in the past, and leading up to the event, going out to Polyface, I started diving way deeper into your work. I watched the Angel Studios documentary, which is really good. They did a damn good job of digging into your story and like the human side, which was cool. And then started watching a lot of your videos and learning more about your practices. And then, to be honest, I've done a lot of events. I've hung out with a lot of cool people over 20 plus years of doing this whole freedom thing. But I was really inspired and I would say transformed being there in the midst of everything you guys are doing and getting to hang out with you, doing that 4-hour mastermind. I came back and just really leaned heavy into regenerative practices at our 10-acre homestead. In fact, leaned so heavily in that I think I pulled a muscle right here just yesterday, pulling some grass and preparing a bed to drop our new compost. Either way, I've really implemented a ton of stuff I learned from you. I bought a bunch of your books at the store you guys have there. Much to my wife's dismay. She doesn't like it when I have the books laying all around the house. But so I got some great questions for you, and we're going to dive really deep. But maybe you can just catch us up to speed. What have you been up to since we were last together in May, late May? Any cool stuff going on this summer for you?
Yeah, well, there's lots going on. We're getting ready for our last big event of the year in August. That'll be Brownstone. Brownstone Institute is kind of a libertarian economy think tank, and developed by Jeffrey Tucker. And they've got 300 tickets sold and looking for 400. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that in the season with a bang. But yeah, lots going on here. We've had a good season. We've had rain, and so we're greener than normal at this time of year. And sales are good, marketing's good, the team is fantastic. You met the team early on, but they've just gotten better and better over the summer. More and more competency and more whatever buy-in, loyalty, that sort of thing. And so yeah, we've had quite the season. I've been gone a lot. I've been gone probably at least half the time speaking at. I mean, these homestead conferences are all over the country now. It seems like there's a new one every couple of weeks. So I've been gone a lot, and have had a good time meeting people and spreading the word.
Right on. I was going to ask you about the background of Polyface and your father's story and stuff, but I think by now a lot of our folks are familiar with the story. So let's go deep here. What would you say are some of the day-to-day challenges that you experience in this patriarchal role? Because you have Daniel that's running the day-to-day operations of the event, which you must be really proud to have, that succession there. But what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing? I understand things are going pretty good with this whole Maha movement, and there's a new resurgence as far as healthy food goes. Yeah. But as you're growing and scaling, surely you're running into new challenges. What might some of those struggles be, and what are some of the lessons you're learning through those?
Yeah, well, I mean, all growing businesses, A, they're normally strapped for cash, and B, you're constantly trying to figure out, protocols, logistics, and things like that. And so yes, you're right, John. The resurgence of the whole Maha movement and the I would say the renewed skepticism or distrust of everything corporate, Tyson to the government has spawned truly a remarkable interest in getting out of the supermarket and growing your own food, but primarily getting out of the supermarket. And so we've never seen the demand for our pastured livestock like we've seen lately. So the big challenge now is how do you handle the growth? And so since we're our big four are eggs, pigs, broiler chickens, that's meat chickens, and beef. Those are our big four. We also do duck eggs, and we've got lamb and turkeys and other things. But our big four are eggs, chicken, pork, and beef. Well, beef is the only one that's an herbivore. And so the others, the omnivores, they're on pasture, but the pasture is primarily a tonic. It's a supplement. It's a, it's a salad bar for them, but not their main, not their main thing. Their main thing is grains. And so we get GMO-free local grains through a Mennonite mill here that is all GMO-free, so nobody can push the wrong button and accidentally put, GMO in. All grains there are checked for glyphosate residue, so it's a very clean material. But the thing is, you can very quickly and easily ramp up the omnivores, the eggs, the pigs, and the chicken. You just call the mill and say, send us another 5 tons of feed, and that's fairly simple. The herbivore, the beef, is the problem because we don't buy grain for them, and they're limited. We're limited there to the amount of grass that we have. And so the big temptation, I'm going somewhere with this, John. The big temptation for a farm like ours is, okay, we can't grow enough beef to satisfy the market. Let's find another producer where we can buy their beef and augment ours. And we have wrestled with this internally. We've wrestled with 2 things. Number one, because we can't satisfy the demand, are we pure capitalists and raise the price and so we're not pure capitalists. So we don't want to raise the price beyond what we really need to just, to make, to stay in business. And in other words, we're not interested in becoming a wealthy people. We're interested in servicing people, but making enough that we're not poor as church mice either. There's a balance there. So we've opted during this, when we're short, to not raise the price. We didn't raise the price of our eggs when they spiked during bird flu. We just don't do that. We don't ride that kind of, industrial marketing shortages. We didn't have any chickens sick. And so we don't feel ethically and morally comfortable. Well, the industry shorted eggs because half the chickens, got killed. So we're going to ride that baby and double our price on eggs too, just like the industry does. No, we don't do that. We have a steady price. We run it on through. The other part then is, do you supplement? Do we buy, additional beef from other people? This is a really serious branding issue. And we have opted not to supplement from other people's beef, because we've spent 65 years developing the genetics and the grass and the protocols to make a tender, really enjoyable grass finished beef. And frankly, we don't trust anybody else to come up to that standard. I mean, does that sound proud or elitist or whatever? Well, you can call it what you want to. We call it brand protection. We call it integrity and credibility and authenticity. So those are temptations, John, that we face, and we have to deal with those as they come in. And I'm just sharing those two. There are others, but those are two that are challenges that, I, as the patriarch now of the business, those are things that I have to dig in my heels and say, no, this is our value, and this is our brand, and this is what we stand for.
Yeah, I know in one of your books, you talk about small is beautiful. And it seems like a lot of your stuff too, which one thing I appreciated is that there's flexibility. You have these principles, and there's certain principles that just won't change. One of them is obviously treat the animals well, honor the animals. And you say it's only when you honor the animals that you earn the right to kill the animals, right? The regenerative practices, how you treat your people. But I did notice at one point in some of your older literature, you guys were pretty serious about not opening up your market beyond your local community. But you saw the demand was there and you shifted. Yeah. But I still see that you have this principle of servicing your customers, your community, and that is more important than profit motive, because I see ways like you could franchise, you could have the Salatin way and have other farms that franchise, right? That are doing it that way. But as you say, small is beautiful. There's something about being small, and it's clear you're living by the principle. Like, money isn't the number one most important thing. If it was, you guys would be like, how can we scale and how can we scale fast?
Yeah. Back goodness. 25 years ago, a big dad used to call people like this born with a big auger. A little auger isn't big enough. You got to have a bigger auger, and a drill. And so a guy came and said, I want to turn you into the Frank Perdue of pastured poultry. I said, I have no desire for that. What I want to see are thousands and thousands of operations like us, supporting the neighborhood. And yes, we were cultish local food advocates, and I admit it. But there's a little business book, Who Moved My Cheese? And over the last 10, 15 years, somebody moved our cheese. It's called Amazon. It's called UPS and FedEx, door-to-door distribution, and the internet, and the ability to purchase, through electronic aggregation. That's what I call, internet electronic aggregation. Door-to-door delivery. And what's happened is, over the last 10, 15 years, the price of physical bricks and mortar retail interface has skyrocketed. the cost of a cashier, the cost of liability insurance to make sure nobody, trips on the sidewalk, and that the light bulb is, done over the bathroom so nobody, breaks their head going to the bathroom. The price of physical bricks and mortar interface for public exposure has skyrocketed, and the cost of door-to-door distribution via UPS, FedEx, things like that have plummeted. And so the differentials in these costs of shipping versus localized retailing has completely changed. And so we began losing customers because, well, why should I come out there on a dirt road when that would make a Snuffy Smith column, comic strip, when I can just sit in my pajamas in bed at midnight and order, stuff from Butcher Box, have it shipped to my door. I don't have to go out. My car won't get hijacked. I don't have to find my way out of the town, blah, blah, blah. And so we began realizing, nostalgia sells until it becomes obsolete. And we began realizing, we're becoming obsolete with this change in the marketplace. And so what it has done, believe it or not, in the last 3 years, if you told me that we were going to ship eggs nationwide, I'd have told you, what? You're nuts. There's no way we can, compete with anybody shipping eggs nationwide. John, we can now ship eggs. We ship a minimum of 4 dozen at a time. We can ship eggs now nationwide to any metropolitan area in the U.S. and undersell the farmer's market. Why? Because all those urban areas are politically blue. They're heavily regulated, heavily taxed. You've got defund the police. The cost of doing business is so expensive. And so here we are in this little swope backwater where there's no crime, taxes are low. You don't ever have to lock your house or lock your car. And we're this place where the cost of living and the cost of doing business is very, very low. And so we can compete with even local food systems in these urban sectors. It's a completely changed thing. So it's, who moved my cheese? It's exactly who moved my cheese. And we feel like, yeah, somebody moved our cheese, and we need to protect ourselves from being obsolete.
Right on. That's good stuff. And you've been in the game for quite some time, even doing direct response to get started, and old print newsletters and all that. And like you said, you were Xeroxing the first edition of your book and stuff. So there's principles that never change, like direct response marketing, of course. But the tactics and the technologies change. And it's important for folks to always be open to new tactics, new strategies, evolving, but stay true to those principles, which is something that I pick up from you guys.
Yeah, we definitely didn't want to, if there's one thing that we've learned, and everybody's different, has a different appetite for what I'm going to describe, but we decided we really didn't want to be policemen. And we have tried to collaborate in the past sometimes with folks, and good folks. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody, but then you go and you find stuff that is just not right. The eggs sitting on the porch for 4 days in July, that sort of thing. And so then you have these difficult conversations. Do you get rid of that collaborator? Do you put them on probation? Do you have to come every day to check up on them and make sure everything's going right? And so we have dabbled in this enough in the past with collaborations that we now are very reluctant, even squeamish about growing where things are not quite right under our control. And that's not being a control freak. That's being very protective of a brand that you've spent, a couple of lifetimes developing.
For sure. Yeah, the brand is important. Trust is important. All right. Now, I mentioned Maha earlier, and I want to cover this because I've been a staunch anarchist, anti-government. We should all have voluntary relationships for many years now. And when the Trump campaign, this most recent Trump campaign kicked off, I ran a counter campaign. It was a vote for nobody campaign. We've done this in the past. And I got a whole lot of pushback for encouraging people not to vote, especially when folks thought that Kamala was going to destroy the Republic and the deep state and DNC, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward, of course, to today and all of the same policies, funding Ukraine, advancing more government spending and debt. They're all the same. In fact, some of them have accelerated under Trump because he's such a damn good executor and business person. But I certainly got a lot of flack because folks know that we're fans of yours and you've headlined the Land Summit. So I said, don't vote for Trump. Don't vote for anybody. Let's build a free society on our own. And then people came and they're like, well, what about Joel Salatin getting picked for some USDA cabinet position? And he's going to be an advisor on this and that and the other. And everyone was trying to throw stuff back at me like, see, John, Trump's one of our friends because they like old Salatin. So can you share what the heck was that all about? I know you had a blog post that was like you're being considered, but it wasn't some formal thing. And then everybody's just so damn excited about politics because they want someone to solve their problems for them more often than not, that they just took it and ran with it. So can you share that story? And then also, what's your view on politics? And can we trust Trump? Can we trust government to solve problems? And what are you thinking there?
Okay, that's fair enough. Let me unpack it. First of all, yes, I did get a call, and more than one actually, and nothing ever came from it. What's interesting is I know a little bit of the inside scoop, and I can tell people that when the Trump selection team had a website for who should be Secretary of Agriculture, I was the number one pick. And so, that got attention in high circles. I think because our side is extraordinarily, militant and just had some real interest there. I certainly would not have become Secretary of Ag. That would have been like torture for me. But I did tell them if they had some non-bureaucratic advisory position, I'd be glad to do that. But I wasn't going to move to DC. I wasn't going to be a bureaucrat, and I wasn't going to run an agency. And so they did, in fact, have this advisory thing that they said, we think we can plug you in there. And that's the last I heard. Nobody ever contacted me again. And so I don't know how many names were considered for that spot or two. But there may have been who knows how many considered. I do know that there is that the behind the curtain of the politics is, let me just say this. The official narrative is never the truth. The official narrative is never the truth. And I'm not free to divulge a few of the things that I know, but suffice it to say, whatever the official narrative is, there's something else. And so that's where we are. Now, that being said, I do have a familiarity with RFK Jr. And so people have to understand that Health and Human Services, which is over the Centers for Disease Control, it's kind of over the FDA, is in a completely different department than agriculture, USDA. So, isn't it just like, John, isn't it just like our segregated thinking in our country that we have one department for health and another department for agriculture, and they're in complete juxtaposition to each other. You've got health over here, and they're asking questions about pesticides and glyphosate and junk food, and over here you've got the USDA, and their whole deal is, well, how do we make sure industrial farmers stay in business and factory farming and antibiotics and glyphosate in use and all this stuff. So you got these two agencies at complete conflict of interest, and our taxes are paying for both of them. And so I certainly I'm not going to argue on your, don't vote thing. I do vote. I lots of times it's a lesser of two evils, but a lot of people have purchased that right, and I'm going to respect the lives that have been lost trying to grant me that right. So that's where I am on that, realizing very quickly that that my vote often doesn't change anything dramatically, except at least then I can look at my friends and say, well, I voted. If I don't vote, it's kind of hard to complain about things, I guess. So that's kind of where I am. So that all being said, I do have a familiarity with RFK Jr. In fact, about 6 weeks ago, back at the height of the bird flu carryings on, I was out speaking at a conference somewhere, and the phone rang. I went in the hotel room, and it was Bobby Kennedy. And he said, "Hey, I need some advice. What are we going to do about this bird flu thing?" And so I gave him some things. I was then put on a working group, and the problem with the working group, there were about 12 of us. And the problem was a couple of them were adamant that bird flu didn't exist. It's like the people that said COVID didn't exist. I don't have time, John, to get into the debate whether COVID existed or not, whether bird flu existed or not. I know I have friends that suddenly have 10,000 dead birds. I'm assuming that there is something there. Now how we deal with it, a totally different ball game. And so, I gave some ideas there. And in fact, I went to our local sheriff during that time and got him to promise that if federal agents showed up here at our farm about bird flu, that I'd call him, he'd send out deputies and escort them off the farm, if they didn't have a warrant. And so, you want to be as, wise as a serpent, harmless as the dove. You want to be proactive, but you don't want to be, we're not going to shoot anybody that, a federal agent. I know they would make great compost, but I'm not going to do that. So here we are. So the whole Maha narrative, that great, huge report that Maha put in about the nation's health situation, it was about a month ago. Isn't it amazing that they almost did gymnastics to not impugn factory farming, pesticides, herbicides? They did jumping jacks to not do that. Why? Well, because they didn't want to make the ag sector angry. And so that's the kind of stuff that happens behind the closed doors, and you see it. And so what's my agenda? And so I do get to talk and move in some circles that I've never been able to talk to or be in before. And there are some neat ones coming up for me that, again, I'm not free to divulge right now, but I'm moving in some circles that are brand new to me. And so I have one agenda, John. I think you're going to appreciate this. My one agenda, when I do media, I do, Maha stuff, I have one agenda. I say, look, I'm a very boring person. Let me preface this. So because of where I'm moving, we'll sign this petition. Like, let's outlaw ractopamine in pigs. It's a hormone thing. Let's substitute subsidies for corn with subsidies for transitional farmers moving to organics. These all sound nice, and they sound like, oh, this will make a better world. But actually, John, as you know, all these things they bog you down in trading one bead for another. So we're going to ban ractopamine. Well, what makes ractopamine worse than glyphosate or something else, And so what happens is our side that finally has I'm going to say our side, the basic, ecology side that has a foot in the door for the first time in a long time. What we do is we end up squandering all of our emotional and political equity, jet setting around, doing meetings and arguing about, well, what do we want to ban? What do we want to outlaw? What regulation do we want to add? This sort of thing. And so I'm very frustrated by so many in what I would call, my friends, our movement that we've been in for so long. I'm very frustrated by how quickly all of that emotional energy and physical energy and financial equity gets sucked up by committee meetings arguing about, who's the bad guy, what's the bad stuff. And so I have one agenda item. This brings me to this point. I have one agenda item, very simple: a food emancipation proclamation. I'm a one-string banjo. I'm very boring. A food emancipation proclamation. What does that mean? What that means is to allow neighbor-to-neighbor food transactions without a federal agent in between that transaction. Take the shackles off of our enslaved food system and free it up so that neighbor to neighbor can transact food commerce freely. There are hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurial farmers and domestic culinary crafts people, men and women, ready to produce clean chicken pot pie, clean pepperoni, bologna, hot dogs, lard, whatever you want to, pasta sauce, okay, for their neighbors. But it's illegal to sell because you have to go through a compliance and licensing process with the federal bureaucracy in order to sell that item. We've got AOC and Bernie Sanders running all over the country talking about, we've got to stop the oligarchy, and the only thing they can imagine is a government agency big enough to bully the oligarchy. Well, that's what we've been trying for 150 years. It doesn't work. What it does is create collusion, fraud, corruption, and K Street that bargains for all of our freedoms. And the reason we have a K Street is because all our freedoms are for sale. And so the answer to the oligarchy is not a bigger government agency. The answer is liberty at the local level, voluntarism, so that consenting adults exercising freedom of choice can exercise agency over our microbiome and pick the fuel to exercise our rights under the Bill of Rights. What good is it to have the freedom to preach, pray, and assemble and write if we don't have the freedom to generate, to determine our body's fuel to give us the energy to go, pray, preach, and assemble. And so this to me has so many threads involved. We're talking about rural revitalization. We're talking about bringing retail value and income, profitability back to the farm. We're talking about reducing the centralization of the industrial food system. We're talking about snapping the collusive, fraternal, incestuous cartel relationship of the government industrial food agriculture complex. All of those things would be maybe not exploded, but they'd be chipped. We could chip away. If we had the freedom to chip away at them, this would become a tsunami of free market interest and voluntarism in the nation's across the nation. And so I'm actually putting out feelers, and I've had some really good responses. I'm actually bucking for a 30-minute pitch time with Trump to pitch this idea of a food emancipation proclamation. And I can't think of anything more Trumpian than him coming out and saying, I'm issuing a food emancipation proclamation to take the shackles off of our enslaved food system and allow neighbors to sell food to neighbors without a federal agent involved. I just have to believe that his business savvy, his entrepreneurial spirit, his all of this would be a boon. And the thing is, it doesn't take any taxes. It doesn't take another agency. It doesn't take another bureaucrat. Nothing. All it takes is freedom, and we let the market then decide. So now Walmart has to compete not just with Kroger and not just with Piggly Wiggly, but now Walmart has to compete with an army of entrepreneurial, liberty-minded, direct marketed, community-based food provenance. And the day that happens, I think, will be the day that we truly have a safe, secure, and stable food system, and we can actually make tremendous progress in our culture.
Right on. Good stuff. Good stuff. And, you know, one thing I know for sure that this will definitely pay mass dividends as far as shifting the culture. And I know that you're a practical guy as well, and you're not someone that relies on government or waits for government to do the right thing. And so there's a variety of different strategies that we can take in order to push the ball down the field towards greater food sovereignty, greater resilience, greater free market activity in this space. So besides the politics, there's one strategy that you have employed that has given you relative freedom compared to other farmers. And I guess I could sum that strategy up by, I don't want to offend any of the folks that have higher sensibilities than I do on the call. I know I won't offend you there, Mr. Joel, but I call this strategy, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I call this strategy the strategy of putting your D on the table. And so when it comes to pushing back on bureaucrats, there was a story that you shared during the 4-hour mastermind. Again, folks, if you're just joining us, we're chatting with Joel Salatin. This is in relation to this big encore presentation of the Land Summit 5. We just did the Exit and Build Land Summit late May at Polyface Farms. We recorded it professionally. We went on an awesome farm tour, which was an absolute treat. The day after the event, we did a 4-hour masterclass. You guys can get access to that with the VIP pass, or you could watch the live stream of day 1 and day 2 this weekend, the 12th and the 13th. exitandbuildlandsummit.com, exitandbuildlandsummit.com. But you shared this story where I wouldn't say that you're untouchable, but you're close to being untouchable in your local county because you've created such a large economic impact. Can you share the story of this jet that came into town and the bureaucrats saw and how that's affected your ability to basically be left alone?
Yeah. We're known as the junkyard dog, but we got there by barking and or by being released a little bit. So our local chairman of the Economic Development Authority, or the executive director, the government man of the Economic Development Authority, was down at the airport one day, and a Learjet flew in, and he asked the guy there at the airport. This is a small airport. This is a small regional airport. They have about three commercial flights in and out of there a day, and he asked the guy there at the airport. He said, "Oh, who's that coming in? Is that some figured it was an executive with, we have a Hershey chocolate plant here. We have several in Harrisonburg. There are several big poultry plants. A Pilgrim's Pride, Cargill, Tyson." And the guy said, "Oh, that's a lady. That's a lady just flew in from Florida. She's coming to Polyface to get beef for her daughter's wedding reception." And the wheels started turning in the guy's mind, the Economic Development Authority fella, and he said, "Wow, that's pretty amazing," because of course they're going to get jet fuel, they're going to spend the night in a hotel maybe or whatever. But anyways, it's a big deal. So he actually contacted me and said, "Let's do an economic analysis of what Polyface does for Augusta County. What's your economic impact?" And we worked together and put together a thing. And this has been now, oh goodness, well over 10 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, maybe. And we put together this thing, and it was millions of dollars. I mean, it was, I don't know, 10 million or something like that. And he ended up taking that and doing a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce about what would it mean to Augusta County if we had 10 Polyfaces. Because interestingly, at that time, the county was getting ready to eminent domain take away 3 farms to incentivize a large Toyota automobile plant. And of course, the whole thing is about jobs and income and taxes and all this stuff. And this guy, he was great. He was just such a heart. And he said, we don't need a Toyota plant. All we need is a couple more Polyfaces and we'll be in good shape. And so that kind of impact, emotional impact, political impact, economic impact in the community has really bought us some real goodwill, and it encourages us to be willing to push back on it. In fact, just in the last legislative session, General Assembly of Virginia, this spring, the General Assembly actually unanimously voted to what's it called? I had it here. Anyway, it's a proclamation recognizing Polyface for our contribution to the state economy and culture and everything. A big one of these whereas we recognize Polyface. So that's at the state level. So our persistence and just staying with the program has engendered to us a little bit of equity we hadn't imagined, but not that we couldn't get be in problems tomorrow with something, but it does give us a little bit of political equity as we deal with these restrictive regulations.
Yeah, and oftentimes people they believe that in order to create freedom and have the freedom to do what we please, to be left alone. My old friend Ernie Hancock would always say there's two types of people in this world. Those that want to be left alone and those that just won't leave you alone. So a lot of times people think they got to get the government to do something or to pass a bill or to do this or that before they can be left alone. But your approach is to ask to just go ahead and do it and not ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And then if you're effective at business, which a lot of people struggle with, but I really love all the wisdom that you have, not only on regenerative agriculture, but also business, marketing, this incredible steward and apprentice program you have. You just go out there and you have a massive impact. And then all of a sudden you have greater leverage. You go out there and you connect with tons of people. I think you said something too that I thought was pretty cool. And we all know that it's not a winning proposition to take up arms against the government or any federal agent. If they show up to your door, you want to play nice, you want to be stern, don't get walked all over, but you definitely don't pull out a shotgun. That's the worst thing you can do. But one thing you did say, which I appreciate, is like if they actually do come out here and they're threatening to do this or that, or it's some rogue federal agency that doesn't have the authority, I'm going to call up our support network and put out a blog posts and blast stuff out. Hit me up. I'll make sure we activate our Freedom Cell groups. And you're going to have folks like block the roadways and stuff, which I thought that was pretty cool. Peaceful resistance. I mean, there comes a time when it's better we're not talking about dying, of course, but the expression is better to live on your feet than to die on your knees. We got to put some damn skin in the game every once in a while instead of just complaining about stuff and posting on social media.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And whenever we have had these run-ins in the past, my first call is not to an attorney. My first call is to our elected officials. You know what your department's doing here? And interestingly, both Democrats and Republicans have been equally responsive to these kinds of things. And to where a department is overstepping their authority, or they're being unnecessarily regimented, and so you can develop relationships with these elected officials and with even departments to where you actually garner for yourself a little bit of wiggle room, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing to invest in. I mean, so many people there. Well, I mean, you've got the two ends, John, right? You've got the one person, they don't want to move a finger without asking permission. Can I move my finger? Then you've got the other people that just want to not engage with anybody. I'm just going to be a rogue and not engage with anybody. But I think there's a road there between the two, and we try to. I'm not saying we do it right all the time, but I think we've been blessed at kind of that a little bit of middle. We have a very good relationship with our local sheriff. Sheriff has a lot of power, and taking some barbecue chicken down there for the deputies. If you've got a rogue agency, this can can come back to be some good return on investment if you have a issue down the road.
Same thing with connecting with your neighbors. If you're in a
Yes,
neighborhood
neighbors,
running
yes,
chickens, give them the eggs and they'll complain
yes,
less about the rooster.
yes.
Okay, Joel, we just have you for about 15 more minutes. Folks, if you're just joining us, we're chatting with Joel Salatin, the one, the only of Polyface Farms, and Rebecca and I and the Live Free Academy crew. We went and hosted the Exit and Build Land Summit, our 5th one. It was at Joel's Polyface Farm. Joel talked. There was a great talk with Joel and Daniel. That was pretty cool having you guys do that combo talk. That was fun. There was some cool little energy there that came about, which the audience loved. There was workshops. There was a really awesome farm tour that everybody absolutely loved. Getting a couple hundred people together with Joel on the lead tractor. We're getting pulled around on these hay seats on these trailers. It was awesome, and got to see the pigs and the pastured poultry and the Millennium Feather Net, as you call it. You know, I noticed you have a way with words, Joel. You're a wordsmith, very clever word guy, and I know that's your background, right? Doing the whole journalism thing. And you think communication is a critical skill that we should have beyond, even if you're a farmer, beyond knowing how to grow the food and to sell the food, you got to be able to communicate and put yourself out there. But I know Rebecca told you about our Cluckingham Palace, which is what we call our nice chicken coop, and you got a kick out of that. It's because you like to do word games there. So
Yes, I do.
We did the farm tour and got to see all this incredible stuff. And then if you get a VIP pass, there's a 4-hour masterclass. But I want to play this video that we have that kind of presents what it is that we're going to be doing this weekend. You can watch the live stream of the Encore. We recorded the event. We want to present it to you guys. It was transformational for me, as I said on the onset, and I'm really grateful that we invested in the professional videographers who are now producing it. I'm reviewing the videos. They're looking good, but I want to play this video here that'll show you exactly what you can expect if you join us. exitandbuildlandsummit.com is the website, exitandbuildlandsummit.com. But let's go ahead and hear from Joel and I as we share what you can expect with this Land Summit Encore. The Exit and Build Land Summit 5 took place at Polyface Farms, and we had the honor of hanging out with the one, the only Joel Salatin. We covered 3 key themes. We covered regenerating the land, monetizing your homestead, and leaving a lasting legacy. Joel, how was it hosting this bunch of radicals out here?
Oh, it was fantastic. What a wonderful group. Tribute to you, to Rebecca, to the whole team for bringing this caliber of people here. We had people that had not done anything and people that aspired to do everything. The whole gamut, but everybody is locked in, engaged with Exit and Build, and it was very, very powerful.
Yeah, we did a whole lot of talks. We heard from Daniel Salatin. We heard from Joel. We had Nicole Sauce, River, and Amani. But one of the most powerful pieces was having Joel show us around a chunk of the property to see the regenerative practices in action. You want to share a little bit about what viewers might experience?
Well, sure. So this is a hay ride, a literal hay ride. It's not a fabricated bus or anything. They're literally hay wagons. We all got on. There were 5 of them. They were all full, and we went to pastured pigs first, and then we went to the pigerator barn where we feed our cows in the winter and make compost with pigs, and talked about carbon economy and being self-reliant in fertilizer. And then we went on up to the broilers, the meat chickens, and talked about growing the meat chickens in the portable field shelters. Then we went over to a pond and talked about how to build a road that takes very little maintenance with water bars and things. And then talked about water and how you collect water, how you can use water, where the best water is, all that sort of thing, and how much water you can generate. I think that's a surprising thing to most people, to realize how even in a fairly arid area, you can really collect some water if you deal with surface runoff. Then we went on up over the hill, stopped at the Millennium Feather Net, which is named after the Millennium Falcon, which is a pastured layer operation with 1,000 layers. And then we ended up with the cows down at the pasture. We moved the cows every day to a new spot. So we had several great stops. And my goodness, the questions were just like popcorn, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Joel was just dropping solid knowledge, and we chose the key themes for this event because we knew that's exactly what Polyface Farm embodies. So regenerating the land, monetizing your homestead, and leaving a legacy. I knew that this was going to be an incredibly powerful experience for those that attended. So I wanted to make sure that we could capture it for folks that missed out on it, for you guys to view and soak up all that wisdom. And we just want to leave you with, I think the most powerful piece was leaving a legacy. Can you just share a little bit about the role legacy plays in everything you're doing here?
Yeah, so legacy is all about extending something not only in time, but in people. And so we're big believers here that a truly sustainable outfit needs two salaries from two generations, because we age and we die. And how do we structure, whether it's a farm business or any other business, that's kind of a small deal, into creating two salaries from two different generations, whether they're related or unrelated. And so we have this wonderful team. Our average person here on the team is about 30 or 28 years old. So it's a very, very young peopled team, which adds a tremendous amount of vibrancy and encouragement. And we talked too in that section about the greater community around us and how we've helped a slaughterhouse stay in business and started a GMO-free feed mill, and the different things that we've done in the community to build what we call, we have our inner team, and then we have this outer team, the people and businesses that you're working with that make you successful. Mutual interdependence. How do you relate to them and create a legacy where they love you because you appreciate and are grateful for them?
Yeah, love it. Well, we had an absolute blast here. I know the attendees, myself, Rebecca, we learned so much. It was an honor to spend some time here. And like I said, we professionally captured it so you guys could experience the wisdom and the insights, with the special focus on actions that you could take at home to monetize your land, to regenerate the land, and to leave a legacy. So thank you so much for allowing us to experience this, and I hope that you'll join us and check it out. All right. Well, Joel, I think that was a one-take wonder. You and I nailed that little intro video. So, yeah. One thing, I could see you on the little screen there watching the video pridefully. And that's one thing I appreciate about you. I could tell you just really take this work seriously, and you just have a reverence for what y'all have built, and you honor the animals, you honor the land, you honor the people, your son, and the incredible young people that you guys are working with. And I tell you what, like I said, I'm not like, this isn't marketing language or whatever. I came home and was transformed. And here's a great example. We have 10 acres. We only actually maintain and mow 2 of the acres. And before, I just mow it with our zero turn, and the grass clippings, they would just stay on the ground and work their way back into the ground, and didn't do much regeneration of the sandy loam soil. But since coming over to Polyface and learning more about the importance of the carbon cycle and the idea that we should keep the carbon on our land and use it, I've since started raking up every single bit of that carbon and that grass and using it as bedding in the chicken coop. And you taught us that we should have 3 inches of bedding. And I tell you what, it's far less work. And you also said, like, well, if you can smell the manure in your livestock operation, it means you're not managing it properly. And so I'm proud to say that before Polyface, you could definitely smell the manure. After Polyface, you can't smell it, and we're cooking up some good compost down there at the bottom of that 3-inch layer of grass. So let me ask you this. Having experienced the event, of course, helping to host it, what do you think are some of the takeaways that folks will get if they join us for this Encore event?
Well, a couple things. I think one is just the management of animals, the movement of animals, and the kind of infrastructure. You'll notice in there that there aren't big physical fences. They're not big heavy fence posts. There's a way to control animals electronically now with very cheap, portable, efficient electric fencing. It's a total game changer from 100 years ago. And so that's one thing. It's just this idea, because a lot of times animals are intimidating. Oh no, what am I going to do with you know, with the cows and the chickens and different things. Animals are intimidating, but the infrastructure doesn't have to be intimidating. And so that's one thing I think people will take away. I think another one is just the idea of portable infrastructure, that you don't have to build a stationary barn. You don't have to build a stationary structure. You can use portable infrastructure, and suddenly that eliminates the need to own the land that it's on. The biggest impediment to entry-level farming is the price of land. So if you can get in without buying the land, suddenly that's a game changer in being able to have a farming enterprise, being freed up from having to put all your equity and capital into owning the land, because your farming venture is actually mobile and you can move it around to different places. So that's the second one. And I think a third one is just the idea that these things can scale. They scale through duplication, not centralization. You know, mainline agriculture, everything's about scaling up, you know, make a bigger building, make a bigger machine. And here, our scale is based on duplicating modules that you already have. So instead of making a great big eggmobile, we make 2 or 3 of them, hook them together. You know, instead of making one great big chicken house, we make multiple small little poultry shelters, and we move them across the field, you know, in a strategy to give us the same amount of housing as a great big conventional operation, but you know, you get there with modules, with duplication. It's a game changer. So I think those are some of the principles that folks will see, you know, when they take the tour with us.
Awesome. All right, Joel, I want to respect your time. I really appreciate you coming on the program today, and really grateful for all that you do to help spread this message and be so open and transparent with everything you've built. I really think it's a game changer for folks that want to get land, that want to homestead, that want to grow food, do the livestock thing. Really have been quite a pioneer, and I'm just grateful to know you and to be doing this stuff with you.
Thank you, John. It's a mutual feeling. You're a great leader, and it's great to collaborate.
Awesome. Okay, Joel. All right, you take care. Thanks again.
You too. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The one, the only Joel Salatin. Got to spend some good time with them, getting down into a lot of his thinking on regenerative agriculture, politics, legacy. Folks, we spent 2 full days hanging out with Joel. He did a keynote speech. He gave the intro speech. He did a talk with Daniel, which was pretty cool. They kind of had this funny father-son little contentious moment, which was cute and entertaining. But we captured it all professionally, video recorded, and it's being produced right now professionally as well, with the B-roll and the shots of the audience and the question slides that show what the question is, if you couldn't hear the question getting asked. And then the farm tour was really something special. Really, really special. We went and checked out the pastured poultry. We checked out the egg layers. We checked out the pigs. We checked out the cattle. We checked out the ponds. And the whole thing was curated in a way to give the viewer concrete, actionable tips and tactics and overall overarching strategies that you guys can apply back at home. So if you don't have land yet, this will help inspire and motivate you to get land, or there's some of the principles that you can apply on a smaller scale. If you do have land, I tell you what, just like it did with me, this will light a real fire under your rear end to take your regenerative agriculture practices to the next level. You know, there's a great picture where Joel pridefully is showing his compost. He's showing off the compost that they made. And whenever I got back, I leaned into a nice big old compost pile that's pretty gigantic. And that was about 4 weeks ago or so, or a little bit more. And it's since been cooked and ready to rock. So I learned a whole lot. I've already applied a whole lot that's making a huge difference on our 10-acre homestead. So again, guys, I want to invite you out. The website's exitandbuildlandsummit.com. exitandbuildlandsummit.com, where you can register to watch the Land Summit 5 Encore. You'll learn about the event over here. You'll see it's July 12th and 13th. We kick off each day at 10 a.m. Central. So that's the that's the live stream, the live pass, we call it. But we wanted to make it as affordable as possible. So you can get the live pass and join us, the 2-day Zoom experience with the community chatting it up, the Joel and Daniel keynotes, every one of the speakers, Nicole Sauce, River and Amani, and others. The workshops that they hosted, we got to see how they process chickens. We got to see moving animals around with electric fencing. We got to see the legendary Polyface Farm tour was huge. Total value of $1,170. You get to watch the live stream this weekend, the 12th and the 13th, for not just $97. Or if you guys want to dive deeper and do a VIP pass, you get everything. You get the live stream as well, everything included in the live pass. You get lifetime access to the replays. So if you can't make it this weekend, or you want to be able to revisit the material, pause, rewind, or maybe get together in a couple weeks with your local freedom group or other folks that you're doing land projects with and watch it together, you'll have access to the replays, lifetime access to the replays. But then, guys, on Sunday after the event was Friday and Saturday. On Sunday, we did a 4-hour exclusive, intimate mastermind with Joel. I mean, this was something really special what we did there with Joel during that session. It was me having some curated questions to kick things off, just getting things going from a deeper level, an emotional level, the wisdom that he has. We really drew it out of him. And then we opened up for audience questions for 3 hours, and it was powerful. I mean, there was times when Joel was tearing up, reflecting on his father, giving him the freedom to experience life and learn from life. Joel was so excited to share about this stewardship and apprentice program where they bring in the young people and the vetting process and all the ups and downs and everything they learned there. And a lot of the questions just drew out this solid gold from Joel that I had never heard. And like I said, I've been obsessing over Joel's stuff for the past 2 to 3 months, diving deep, reading a bunch of his books, watching the videos, watching the documentaries. And there was stuff that I hadn't heard before that was like, wow, I don't know if he's shared this anywhere else. So you get the replay of that 4-hour mastermind. We throw in a bonus Homestead Freedom Formula video collection. That's a few videos from past land summits. And you get all of that, the VIP pass, the replays, the 4-hour mastermind. Show up live this weekend if you'd like to connect with the group. That's just $297. Just a few more days to join us, guys. A few more days to join us. I hope that you will. We put a lot into curating the event. My lovely wife, Rebecca, just went all in to make this such a magical experience. And then I'm so grateful I had the foresight to go ahead and hire videographers, capture everything, and then professionally produce the Encore experience. Again, the website is exitandbuildlandsummit.com, exitandbuildlandsummit.com, where we hope you'll go ahead and check it out and join us. It's going to be something really special. All right, guys. Okay. John Bush here with the Live Free Now show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. I just brought on a new team member to help me book some really incredible guests. So we got some awesome stuff lined up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Head over to livefreenow.show. livefreenow.show, or hit the links in the description if you'd like to subscribe to the podcast. So we do the live video stream, but for those of you that are podcasters, like to listen in the car or your favorite Spotify app or whatever, we also have a podcast version of the Live Free Now show as well. Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week, stay free out there and have a great week and be blessed. Peace.